Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're totally ditching the fairy tales and those sanitized nature documentaries to look at the cold, hard, and frankly brutal reality of animal romance. I mean, if you think the modern dating scene is tough, well, you might want to buckle up. We're going to dive into the harrowing, exhausting, and just completely tragic love lives of three very specific male animals. Let's just say, by the end of this, you're probably going to view the whole concept of love in the animal kingdom a whole lot differently.
So what is the ultimate price of survival? We usually think about it in terms of escaping predators or just finding enough food to make it through the day. But biology actually asks a much darker question of the individual. To ensure the continuation of a species, what must a single animal be forced to sacrifice? Like, how far does the evolutionary drive to reproduce actually push someone? As we're about to see, for some males in the animal kingdom, the price of passing on their genes is literally everything they have.
Section 1. Nature's tragic love stories and the escalating cost of reproduction.
Section 2. The Jacana's toxic romance and the perils of bad interior design.
Okay, so let's start with the male Jacana Bird. His dating life is basically a physically abusive, incredibly exhausting chore. First off, he has to build a nest completely from scratch, mostly because the females simply refuse to do it. Then, she drops by to inspect his work. And if his interior design isn't up to her exact, crazy high standards, she doesn't just reject him and fly away. No, she actually physically beats him up and destroys the nest. So he's forced to rebuild the entire thing from scratch all over again. And when she finally approves and lays her eggs, she just immediately flies off to find another guy, leaving him behind as this completely exhausted single dad.
But wait, it gets worse. Here is the ultimate insult for this guy, because the female flies off and mates with multiple males. The eggs in his meticulously rebuilt nest are basically a genetic mixed bag. A full 50%. Half of the chicks he pours all his time and energy into raising aren't even biologically his. He's literally working himself to the bone to raise another male's offspring. It is, without a doubt, the absolute pinnacle of toxic romance.
Section 3. The Antechinus mating marathon. Pure mating chaos.
14. Honestly, just let that number sink in for a second. Once the male Antechinus mouse reaches adulthood, they go absolutely nuts. A single mating session for this tiny mammal can last up to 14 hours straight. 14 hours. That is relentless, non-stop physical exertion for just a single encounter. And the craziest part? As soon as they're done, they immediately move on to the next female to do it all over again.
And it compounds. 3. As in 3 whole weeks. These males furiously repeat their 14-hour marathon sessions with multiple females for 3 weeks straight. And during this entire period, they completely ignore their own basic survival needs. I mean, no eating, no sleeping. Just 3 continuous weeks of pure, unadulterated mating chaos. So, what exactly does 3 weeks of zero sleep, zero food, and intense exertion do to a body? Well, it essentially triggers a biological self-destruct sequence. Their bodies become so unbelievably flooded with cortisol that their immune systems just entirely collapse. They physically start to fall apart. We're talking going blind, losing all their fur, and then inevitably they just drop dead from pure exhaustion. It's this fatal, unavoidable chain reaction triggered entirely by the blind drive to mate.
Section 4. The Argonaut's ultimate sacrifice. A fatal delivery.
Now, to really understand the Argonaut octopus, you kind of have to understand his starting disadvantage. The male Argonaut is incredibly, pathetically tiny. In fact, he's so minuscule that he literally cannot even swim on his own. So, to get anywhere in the vast ocean to find a partner, he's forced to passively hitchhike on passing jellyfish. He is entirely at the mercy of the ocean currents and his, well, gelatinous transport.
And the dynamic here is absolutely terrifying. On one hand, you have our microscopic male, just drifting helplessly along. And then you have the female Argonaut. She is massive, she's formidable, and most importantly, she is hungry. The male faces imminent death literally just by finding her, because if he gets too close to his prospective mate, she's just going to eat him alive.
So how on earth do you mate with a giant who wants to eat you, especially when you can barely even swim? Well, nature's solution here is just sheer absurdity. To avoid being eaten alive, the male Argonaut literally detaches and launches his reproductive arm directly toward the female, basically like a little biological torpedo. Once he throws this vital piece of his own anatomy at her, he desperately tries to swim away to safety. But
Safety is a bit of an illusion here. It's a total Pyrrhic victory. Because without that vital organ, the very arm he just launched across the water, his biology simply fails. This act of extreme self-amputation guarantees his immediate end. So he avoids being eaten, yeah, but only to succumb to his own completely wild reproductive strategy.
Section 5. Evolution's cruel reproductive cost and the ultimate sacrifice.
Let's just take a step back and look at the progression of biological tragedies we've uncovered today. You have the Jacana Bird, who survives, sure, but is trapped raising other males' chicks completely alone after enduring actual physical abuse. Then the Antechinus Mouse, enduring a frantic 3-week marathon that ends in total immune failure and death. And finally, the Argonaut Octopus, who avoids being eaten by literally throwing a vital organ at his mate, resulting in his immediate death. That's 3 completely different species and 3 distinct, brutal ways these males pay the ultimate price for reproduction.
Which brings us to our final, pretty heavy thought for the day. Is the survival of a species worth the ultimate sacrifice of the individual? Well, evolution clearly says yes, without a single moment of hesitation. Nature simply doesn't care about the exhaustion of the Jacana, the complete deterioration of the Antechinus, or the missing arm of the Argonaut. It literally only cares about the next generation. It's a dark, fascinating reality that completely changes how we view the natural world, right? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope this gave you a whole new perspective on the true cost of survival.